Welcome to the deep dive where we dig into the past, unearthing these incredible stories of innovation
Hmm.
and maybe even a few marvels along the
A
way.
journey through time. I like it.
Exactly. And today we're traveling back to Victorian England to explore, well, an icon really, the Crystal Palace.
Ah, the Crystal Palace.
Mm.
A true testament to Victorian ambition, wouldn't you say? I mean, this was an age of groundbreaking advancements, and the Crystal Palace really embodies that spirit of ingenuity.
And speed. I mean, this incredible structure was built in just 190 days. 190 days. That's less time than it takes to build a basic house today.
It's astounding, isn't it? A testament to their efficiency, to be sure.
Absolutely. And that's what we're diving into today. Some fascinating new research from Anglia Ruskin University might finally reveal just how they pulled it off. And the secret. Well, it involves a surprisingly small but mighty invention,
You've got me intrigued. What could it be?
the standardized screw thread. But before we, get into the nuts and bolts of it all, let's set the scene. Imagine, if you will. London, 1851. The Great Exhibition is about to open its doors, showcasing the industrial might of a global superpower, really, to the world.
A pivotal moment in history.
And at the heart of it all stood this architectural marvel, the Crystal Palace.
It was more than just a building, you see. It was a statement. Picture this. Over 560 meters long, this glittering cathedral of glass and iron, filled with the latest technological wonders from across the globe.
It must have been something to behold.
It was. Millions flocked to see it, from Queen Victoria herself to luminaries like Charles Dickens, Charles Darwin. A true sensation, a symbol of progress, of human achievement.
Okay, so we've got this massive groundbreaking structure built at a pace that would make modern engineers sweat. How on earth did they manage it? I mean, they didn't have cranes, power tools, all the things we take for granted today.
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And this is where the research gets really interesting. You see, as magnificent as the Crystal Palace was, the construction industry back then, well, it still relied on a rather, let's say, archaic practice. Custom-made screws and bolts.
Wait, so every single screw is unique. I can't even imagine trying to find a matching bolt in that scenario.
Can you imagine the chaos? If a bolt was lost, or, heaven forbid, damaged during construction? The delays. This is where the Crystal Palace's secret weapon comes into play.
You mean the standardized screw?
Precisely. New research suggests it was the first major structure to fully utilize Joseph Whitworth's, well, revolutionary invention, really. The standardized screw thread, a precursor to the system we still use today.
So instead of each screw being like a unique snowflake, they were all uniform, interchangeable, brilliant.
Exactly. And the implications for the Crystal Palace's construction were, well, monumental. This seemingly small change meant that components could be prefabricated off-site and assembled with incredible speed, efficiency. Teams could work simultaneously on different parts of the building, confident that everything would, well, fit together perfectly.
It's like to say, right, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Or in this case, the Crystal Palace, well, it was greater thanks to the uniformity of its parts.
Precisely. And this research from Anglia Ruskin, it really does provide, well, compelling evidence to support this theory.
Okay, so how'd they figure this out? Did they, stumble upon a stash of Victorian screws?
That would be an amazing find. But no, the researchers, they focused their attention on the original site of the Crystal Palace, carefully examining, what remained after the fire.
Right, of course. What a tragic end for such an iconic structure.
Indeed. But even in the ashes, they were able to uncover some vital clues. They found actual column bolts from the Crystal Palace, along with a nut and bolt from a nearby water tower designed by, get this, Isambard Kingdom Brunel.
Wow, so much brilliance concentrated in one place. It's incredible. What did they do with these artifacts? Put them under a microscope.
You're on the right track. They used, well, incredibly precise measurement techniques to analyze the threads on these bolts, comparing them to, the specifications laid out by Joseph Whitworth himself.
What'd they find?
Remarkable, really. The threads on those century-old bolts were a perfect match for the Whitworth standard. Imagine that, holding a piece of history, tangible evidence of this pivotal moment in engineering history.
Wow. And it gets even more interesting when you think about, the Great Exhibition itself.
Exactly. The Great Exhibition, it wasn't just about showcasing these finished products. It was about celebrating the ingenuity, the innovation behind them. And guess what? Joseph Whitworth himself, He won an award at the exhibition for his work on, you guessed it, standardized screw threads.
Yeah.
It's almost poetic, don't you think?
It is. Here he is, this unsung hero, laying the groundwork for, well, for modern construction, really, right under everyone's noses at this grand celebration of progress. And to think it all started with something as seemingly simple as a screw thread.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? Progress, it isn't always about, giant leaps or these flashy inventions. Sometimes it's the smallest, most fundamental changes that have the biggest impact.
It really makes you think, like, what do we use every day that in 100 years people will look back on and be like, whoa, that's what they used to use?
It's a humbling thought, isn't it? But, what's really fascinating about the standardized screw thread is that its impact, it wasn't just limited to the Crystal Palace, or even to construction for that matter. It really rippled outward, influencing, manufacturing, engineering, technology, you name it.
Yeah, like behind every great invention is a screw. I think I might have just made that up.
Well, I rather like it. Maybe that's another deep dive waiting to happen. Who knows? We could trace back the origins of that little nugget of wisdom. But you are right. The standardized screw thread, it really did pave the way for the era of mass production. Interchangeable parts, It was a fundamental shift in how we build and create.
So as we marvel at the grandeur of the Crystal Palace, it's amazing to think about all those little details, right? The ones that made it all possible. It's a good reminder that while sometimes the most important breakthroughs, they aren't the ones that are, flashy or loud. They're the ones that quietly change the game forever.
Indeed. It really makes you wonder, what are those seemingly small innovations today that are setting the stage for the marvels of tomorrow? What will future historians point to as the screw thread of our time?
Now, those are some questions worth pondering, and I think that's a perfect place to wrap up our deep dive into the Crystal Palace, wouldn't you say?
Until next time, keep asking those questions. And remember, sometimes the smallest details lead to the most extraordinary discoveries.
From the grandeur of a glass palace to the humble ingenuity of a screw thread, this has been The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time for another fascinating journey into the stories behind the stories.